Okay, welcome back everyone. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online as well. We're going to start our afternoon with some meditation, just like we do each afternoon. Then I'm going to move into this talk about the three poisons, helping you guys understand what this is and how to eliminate them from the mind. If you'd like to join for meditation, we're going to start with the chanting. Then I'm going to come in with some guidance. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're meditating together. Then we'll come out of that with some more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's talk, or this afternoon's talk. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakeva Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vichacharanang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable. In the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathe in gradually through the nose developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธภะคะวาพุทธังมหากัมวันตังอะภิวาเทมิ สวากขาโตมหากวัตตาอารัมโมดามังนามาสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหากวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารนังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวามนุสนังโอโตภะคะวะติ Okay, if you'd like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, so this morning you learned about the Four Noble Truths and the entire Eightfold Path. As part of the Four Noble Truths, you learned about craving, desire, attachment, and this is the cause of the problem in the mind. The problem being discontentedness, the mind going up and down, forming its inner feelings on some condition. That if it gets what it wants, it gets so happy and excited, but if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry or frustrated or sad, some kind of painful feeling. So you kind of had this little window in four simple statements to kind of peer into the mind and see what's going on in the unenlightened mind. But now with this particular teaching, you're going to go a bit deeper. You're going to start seeing the problem more broadly and more deeply, and then some of the solutions as well. Where the Eightfold Path is the core central teaching, and you need to know that in order to get to enlightenment, here we're going to focus in on three aspects of the mind. This is the way the Buddha teaches. He teaches in these layers, where you kind of start at one layer and you go a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. So here I'm going to introduce you to the three poisons, or the three unwholesome roots, the three fires: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where all your unwise decisions are coming from, and it's producing unwholesome results in your relationships. You're experiencing disharmony in your relationships whenever you're making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance. But you can actually transform this. You can completely eliminate these out of the mind, and you can get to the point where your mind's no longer having these, and then you'll experience the harmony in your relationships. Your relationships will be harmonious. So as we go, you guys are welcome to ask any and all questions that you like. I'm going to walk you through this first, just helping you understand what are these three poisons, these three unwholesome roots, or these three fires. These are also known as the defilements or the pollutions of the mind. Some people refer to them as taints. The deepest level of detail that the Buddha gives on the pollutions of the mind is called the 10 fetters. I kind of mentioned them this morning when we were talking, But at a higher level, we talk about them as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. Ultimately, you're going to need to know them as the 10 fetters. And as you progress in your learning with me, you're going to see that I teach you these at different times. But here I'm going to teach you kind of at this higher level because it helps you to understand at this higher level what's really happening in the mind and what are the solutions to this. So this helps you to understand how the unenlightened mind is making decisions through these three unwholesome roots. And whenever you're making decisions through the three unwholesome roots, it's going to produce unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. And one of those unwholesome results is disharmony in our relationships, that you'll experience bitterness and harshness and hostility. You'll have a difficult time getting along with people. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another person. Right now, there's probably people you like and people that you dislike, but that's coming from your own mind. And when you eradicate these out of the mind, you'll get to the point where you won't even have the slightest dislike for another person. You can love all beings. And that comes through understanding what they are and how to eliminate them. It provides you an understanding of the problems in the mind and then the solutions of how to solve them. And it's the three wholesome roots that's going to uproot these three unwholesome roots so that you can now start making decisions through the three wholesome roots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first help you understand all three of them from a high level. Then we're going to drill into them in more detail and really focus on the solutions so that you can understand what the solutions are, because you understand how the Eightfold Path is laid out even more when you understand this. So craving, anger, and ignorance. And some people refer to this as greed, hatred, and delusion. And you might hear other ways that people refer to this as well. What craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations are, this is the mind having a longing, yearning, making decisions based on your own selfish desires, that there's certain pleasant feelings that you want, and you want these pleasant feelings to be permanent. So the mind chases after things, thinking that something external is going to provide you this lasting satisfaction. This is the same thing we were talking about with the Four Noble Truths, the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning. The mind can oftentimes be very selfish when it has these cravings. When it gets what it wants, it gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But when it doesn't get what it wants, when the mind isn't experiencing its cravings getting fulfilled, it gets angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed. These are the painful feelings that the mind experiences. And when those painful feelings are arising, one of the things that can arise is your anger, your hatred, your ill will, your bitterness, your hostility, your animosity. And this is where you might push people away. You might be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or you might put your expectations on people and try to control them, because the mind misunderstands what the problem is. The mind thinks the problem is external. So that's why it's trying to solve this through external things, because it doesn't understand the Four Noble Truths. It doesn't understand the three unwholesome roots or the three poisons. And the reason why this craving and anger continues to exist in the world and inside your mind is because of this third one. It's referred to as ignorance, but I tend to not use this word because we're translating here from what the Buddha taught over to English. And a Buddha doesn't walk around talking to people in degrading and diminishing and derogatory ways. And if you were to refer to somebody as ignorant, it's kind of like a derogatory way to refer to this person. So a better way to think about this particular poison is confusion, or misunderstanding, or the unknowing of true reality. I still use ignorance because that's what you'll see some other teachers use, but a better way to think about this is the unknowing of true reality, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. Because of the mind's lack of wisdom, then it continues to crave. It gets what it wants sometimes, and other times it doesn't. And then it experiences this anger and this hatred and this ill will. So as long as the ignorance is in the mind, as long as this lack of wisdom is there, then craving and anger continues to exist. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues to exist. If it wasn't for that, that craving and anger wouldn't exist in the mind. And that's why I start off each one of these courses and I say, don't believe anything on this path, because you need to get to wisdom. That's what's going to solve all of this. When you get to wisdom and you see the truth, then you can actually solve this. That's how you transform your mind, is by getting to wisdom. So now I'm going to go to each one of these and kind of talk about the solutions. You already know about this craving because we talked about it this morning with the Four Noble Truths. Sometimes when I give this talk, it's like 2 or 3 days after I've talked about the Four Noble Truths, and there's different people that are here. So I go into this one in a lot more detail, but I think you guys understand this one pretty well because we talked about it quite a bit this morning. But if you have questions about this, you're more than welcome to ask me. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to focus on these solutions that if you understand what the mind's doing in the unenlightened state with craving, desire, attachment is it's longing, yearning, and it's chasing after things and it's holding on to things. Well, the way to solve this is you got to train your mind to let go. The mind doesn't know how to do that. When you were with that boyfriend or girlfriend and you guys broke up, as long as you were holding on to them and wanting them to be permanent, you were frustrated, you were angry, you were lonely, you were bored, you were missing this person. But at some point your mind let go and you decided to let go and your mind actually did it. And that's where you regained your peacefulness. So that's what you need to be able to do is train your mind to let go so that you don't hold on to things so tightly. And that's what the breathing mindfulness meditation and the generosity is there for. It's to train your mind to let go because the mind doesn't know how to do that when it's untrained, when it's lacking mental discipline. So that breathing mindfulness meditation, when we're focused on the breath and the mind's moving off the breath and you cut that off and let it go and bring the mind back to the breath, that's training your mind to let go. So the goal isn't to eliminate your thoughts, it's to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and to let them go easier and easier. You're developing your mindfulness and your concentration, and you're eliminating craving, desire, attachment. So in meditation, you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up because you're exercising the mind. But then in day-to-day life, you're only cutting off the unwholesome thoughts that are coming up in the mind. So you're training your mind in one way in meditation, but in day-to-day life, you're doing something different. In day-to-day life, if you have a wholesome thought, like you like to take your mom out to dinner or out to lunch, you don't have to cut that off, right? Go ahead. Take your mom out to lunch, take your mom out to dinner. But if you're thinking about punching your boss in the face, you should cut that off, right? Because that's going to cause problems, right? That's an unwholesome thought. You got to cut that off and let it go. But you're going to have a hard time cutting that off if you're not doing breathing mindfulness meditation regularly because your anger is just going to be stewing and stewing and stewing. You're going to have that craving to punch your boss in the face, right? So you need to be able to have that mindfulness or awareness of mind, that concentration, and the ability to cut off and let go in your day-to-day life. And you're cutting off the unwholesome thoughts in day-to-day life. But in meditation, you're building the qualities of mind to allow you to be able to do that. So that's why you're cutting off anything and everything that comes up in meditation. Then you would also like to practice generosity. This is the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, your effort, your energy, your resources. This is where you do this without any expectation of anything in return. Because when you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you're going to hold on to things very tightly. You're going to find it very hard to share with other people. You're going to want things to be self-satisfying all the time. But what you need to be able to do is start living open-handedly, being joyful and letting go, because this is going to train your mind to let go. So the Buddha teaches you to frequently practice breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity. This is a daily practice where you'd like to be practicing both of these. Generosity can be very simple, very easy. You're walking into a store, you're getting ready to open the door for yourself, and you notice there's someone behind you. Hey, hold the door for that person. Take you like 5 seconds, 10 seconds to hold the door for them. That's generosity. But you need to be careful that you're doing this without any expectation of anything in return. Because if you're standing there holding the door, expecting them to say thank you, and they don't say thank you, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed because you have an expectation. And your expectations can't be met permanently because of impermanence. Some people are going to walk through and say thank you. Other people aren't. So as soon as you allow your mind to form an expectation, you're sabotaging your ability to have peace and joy permanently, because sometimes people are going to say thank you and sometimes they're not. So you need to be able to practice generosity with only one goal in mind: to enhance the quality of your mind. That's it. That's the reason why generosity is practiced, to enhance the quality of your mind, not because you want something from somebody else. You need to be able to give and share without any expectation of anything coming back to you in return. But things will come back to you, but that's not why you're practicing it. You would like to practice it to train your mind to let go. So you'd like to share your time, effort, energy, and resources. If you take your clothes out of the dryer and you see they're ripped and you get frustrated, it shows you're attached to your clothes. Maybe you need to share those with other people. Maybe you need to give some away. If you're so protective of your jewelry and anytime it goes missing, you feel really frustrated, maybe you need to share your jewelry with your friends and family. Let them wear it a little bit, right? If you're noticing that you're holding on to money really tightly and you don't want to share your money with other people, you need to maybe do that. Share a little bit. When you go around Thailand or other places in the world, you see little boxes. Like if you go to Lotus or you go to a restaurant, you're going to see little boxes at 7-Eleven for donations. Just put 10 baht. Just put 20 baht, just a little bit of money, because the frequency is more important than the amount. That if you were going to give, say, $500 to an orphanage once a year, that's not going to be as impactful as giving $1 a day. If you are giving $1 a day, every day you're having to let go, let go, let go, let go, let go. This is very helpful for your mind. So you would like to be frequently practicing generosity. You're coming out of the house, you see your neighbor's trash is blown all over the yard. Maybe take some time to pick it up if you're able to. You don't even have to tell them that you did it because you don't expect anything back from them. You just do it out of the generosity of your heart. And this is a way that you can be practicing generosity. You go to the market to buy some things for yourself. Hey, pick up a couple extra pieces of fruit for your neighbor or something like this. This is make it really easy for you to practice generosity, that you integrate it into your life, and that you don't have to spend this extra 2 hours to go off and do this particular thing. Now, maybe sometimes you do that. Maybe you go to an orphanage and you volunteer your time, or a homeless shelter or something like this. You can surely do those kinds of things, but where you can integrate your generosity into your day-to-day life, this allows you to practice it daily, every day. Okay, so these are the two things that are really targeting the craving, desire, attachment. You need the entire Eightfold Path to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment. You saw that in the Four Noble Truths. But here you can see what's really targeting it. But you wouldn't be able to just practice breathing mindfulness meditation and generosity to eliminate your cravings, desires, attachments. You need every single factor of the Eightfold Path. But this is really targeting it. Do you guys have any questions on this one? No questions here? Okay. So as the mind has craving, again, if it gets what it wants, it gets happy, excited, elated. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets those painful feelings. And one of the things that can arise is the anger. And when the anger is arising, this is where there's hatred and ill will, hostility, aggression, bitterness, this animosity, this resentfulness comes into the mind. And this is where you could potentially push someone away, or you could push a situation away, or you could become bitter, harsh, and hostile through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, or you could put your expectations on someone and try to control them. This is the unskillfulness of the mind, that the mind becomes very unskillful because it firmly believes the problem is external. It thinks that the problem's external, so it's trying to fix the external world. This is where someone might say, I need to change the world. You can't change the world. The world's set. It has the natural laws. You can't go around and change other people. Each individual person needs to decide to change for themselves. All you can do is focus on your own mind. That's what you can do. And that's actually changing the world. If you focus on your own mind and improve your own mind, that will change the world, right? So when this anger and hostility is arising, you become very unskillful. But the way that you transform that is through loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life. This is essentially a rewiring of the mind, that there's a meditation you're going to learn tomorrow morning that I'm going to teach it to you, where you're training your mind to be loving and kind in all situations. It's not going to be like a magic pill. You're not going to do this meditation once and you're instantly going to be loving and kind, but slowly but surely you can wear away your anger, hatred, and ill will. And as you do, you're going to start being more loving and kind to the people around you. And what you'll notice is more love and kindness is going to come back to you. Because if you continue to put out the anger, the harshness, the hostility, the bitterness, this is what's going to keep coming back to you. So you can look in those relationships where you're having the most trouble. You can see that you're bitter and you're hostile, and the people are being that way with you too. But if you transform your mind through loving kindness meditation, and then you transform the way you interact with people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, using the Eightfold Path as your guide, now you'll transform your mind and you'll transform your relationships. When I was growing up, I had a lot of difficulties with my mom. I had so much resentment towards her for things that was happening in my life. And I always wanted mom to change, because every time we were together, it was like an explosion. It was like fireworks when we were together. Mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room. And I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and I'd throw it around the room. Next thing you know, we got all these rubber balls of anger and hostility bouncing around the room. And it was like fireworks. So we did that for a good long while. But somewhere in my 20s and early 30s, I decided I was going to change, that I was tired of this and I wanted to create some real change. So I started doing loving kindness meditation. I started practicing these teachings so that I could start being more loving and kind. Where before, when mom would act a certain way or mom would do something, I would get angry and I would go down this well-worn path of anger, and I'd be bitter and harsh and hostile towards her. And this path, I have the grass pushed back. I had the stickers and the branches and everything was pushed back. And you know where this path goes to, because you've been down this path too. This path leads to broken relationships. That's where this path of anger leads to. But instead, I started doing something different. I started going down this new path. I got out my machete and I started cutting down the stickers and the bushes and started going down this new path. And now as I went down this path more and more, this old path became overgrown. The grass came back, the bushes and the stickers came back, and my mind didn't even look down that path anymore, because I just always knew it was better to go down this path of loving kindness. So in the past, where we'd be on the phone and mom would be bitter and harsh and hostile to me, I'd be bitter and harsh and hostile right back. And next thing you know, we'd be hanging up the phone on each other and yelling and hollering and screaming at each other. But then when I started training my mind, I did things differently. When mom started being bitter and harsh and hostile, I would just pause and I would say, Mom, I love you so much. And I know that I was angry and bitter and harsh with you in the past, but I'm choosing not to do that anymore. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what you just said, and then we'll talk another time. I love you, Mom. Bye-bye. And I'd get off the phone and let her think about what she said. And I might wait a month or 2 or 3, even 6 months sometimes before I'd call her back. And then eventually we'd talk again. And we'd be talking and things would be going well, much better than they were before. 2 or 3 or 4 months down the road, she'd be bitter, harsh, and hostile again. And I'd say, Mom, I know I've been unkind to you in the past, but our relationship is really important to me, and I would like to see us get to a better way of doing things. I'm going to get off the phone, let you think about what you said, and we'll talk another time, Mom. I love you. So in the past, when mom would pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around, I'd pick it up too. But now I started doing something different. I started putting out love and kindness in the way that I interacted with mom. So when she picked up the rubber ball of anger, I just watched it roll to the corner and it would lose its energy. I didn't pick it back up. And now we started transforming our relationship slowly but surely. Mom could see that she's the one who had anger in her mind. Her son didn't have anger in his mind anymore. And she could see that she needed to work this out and she needed to solve this. So by the time she died in 2017, it had been many years since we had any bitterness and hostility between us. There was many years of peacefulness and joy and just being loving and kind to each other. And that's through transforming my mind. When I was sitting back, wanting mom to change, mom never changed, right? Because I was so angry and I just wanted mom to change. But when I started the change first, then I could be better in this relationship. And now when I was putting out loving kindness, mom would be loving and kind back. And I had to do this with my mom. I had to do this with my wife. I had to do this with other people too, because my mind needed to be transformed. So you probably have relationships that are problematic, that you might be bitter and harsh and hostile in. And there might be some of those relationships that you need to let go of and just move on from. You're not committed to the relationship. They're not committed to the relationship. There's too much hostility, but you're still holding on to the relationship. And it might be better to just move on and let go. And that's the way you're going to clean that up. But then there might be a second type of relationship that you're more committed to. And you would like to solve this, and you would like to work on your own mind, and now you would like to also improve this relationship. So you're going to be doing perhaps loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your day-to-day life, and you'll train your mind, and you'll be better in this relationship, like I was with mom. Then there's a third category of relationships that are brand new relationships. You haven't even met these people yet. You don't even know their names. And now when you meet those people, you'll only ever be loving and kind in those relationships. And that's all you're ever going to experience coming back from those individuals. And this is how you can clean up your relationships and get to harmonious relationships. That you're going to need to do some work on your mind to clean up your cravings and clean up your anger. But then you're going to need to clean up your relationships. You're going to need to let go of some of them. You're going to need to improve others that you're committed to, maybe like your parents, your siblings, life partner, children, people like this. But then there's that third category of brand new people you've never even met yet. You don't know their names, and you're only ever going to be loving and kind. And now you're going to create more and more of a track record of being loving and kind with all the people around you. And that's all you're going to experience coming back to you. And it's loving kindness meditation and practicing loving kindness in your intention, speech, and actions that's going to transform this anger for you and break this up and get it out of the mind. Do you guys have any questions on this? No questions here? Okay. So now we've got one more. This is the ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the confusion, the misunderstanding, the misperceptions. This is the thing that's keeping everything else locked up. If it wasn't for this, none of the other stuff would even exist in the mind. But because the mind lacks wisdom of true reality in the way that the mind truly works and the way that the world truly works through these natural laws, because the mind lacks that wisdom, craving and anger continues to exist in the mind. And you stay stuck in this continuous cycle over and over and over again. You start craving and craving and craving, and sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't. And when you don't get what you want, you get angry and bitter and harsh and hostile. You damage your relationships. You feel miserable about that. And then you start craving something else. This is where someone might come home from a hard day at work and turn to alcohol or drugs, or turn to sex or gambling or shopping. The mind thinks that, I don't feel good about what just happened today. I had a horrible day. Let me fix that with some drugs or alcohol. Let me fix that with some sex or shopping or gambling. This is how the mind's lack of wisdom keeps it stuck in this continuous cycle, that it keeps craving and craving and craving and craving. So it's this lack of wisdom that keeps the mind stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing this discontentedness over and over. So the way that you transform this is you get to wisdom. The way you get to wisdom is you don't believe anything at all. You need to learn, examine, and investigate the teachings. You need to reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or false. And then you need to practice them, integrating them into your day-to-day life and training your mind and transforming your mind. As you're doing this, that's where you're going to see real results. Right? So we're not talking about believe, and hope something good happens when you die. We're talking about learning now, investigating and examining the teachings now, reflecting to independently verify the teachings now in this life, and then practicing the teachings now in this life. And that's where you're going to see the real results as you transform your mind. So the things that you need to cultivate wisdom about is things like the three universal truths, the four noble truths, the eightfold path, the 5 precepts, the Brahma Viharas, the natural law of Karma, the 7 factors of enlightenment. You're going to need extensive meditation training. You're going to need to learn how to eliminate the 10 fetters. These are like the core central teachings of the Buddha, and there's others as well. And if you're gradually taking courses and you're gradually learning in the programs that I share, you're going to learn all of these things and many more. But you'll just need to decide for yourself as your own independent journey that you would like to learn and grow and develop on this path. Because a teacher is kind of like a tour guide. I'm pointing out for you the things that you need to learn, but it's you that's doing the work to learn. You're on your own independent journey. You're not a follower. You're not a devotee. You're none of those things. You're an independent practitioner who's searching and seeking wisdom. And when you find that wisdom, that's what's going to transform your mind, because now you can independently verify what the teacher's saying, and now you can cultivate that wisdom, awakening to be able to eliminate your craving and eliminate your anger through cultivation of wisdom. And now this will transform your mind. So instead of functioning through the three unwholesome roots of craving, anger, and ignorance, where the mind is selfish, where the mind is bitter and harsh, and the mind is lacking wisdom, you can actually function through the three wholesome roots, where you can be practicing generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, where you're willing to give and share, where you're willing to be loving and kind and warm and gentle with the people around you. And you're doing that because of your wisdom, because you understand the natural law of karma, of cause and effect, or action and result. And you've already seen that whenever you function with craving, the selfishness, whenever you function with anger, the bitterness and hostility, and whenever you're making unwise decisions through the ignorance, it always leads to unwholesome results. So as you're gradually transforming your mind, you're increasing your generosity, your loving kindness, and your wisdom. So you're gradually bringing down your craving, anger, and ignorance, and you're gradually increasing your generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And more, you're going to see wholesome results in your day-to-day life. But you've got these unwholesome results from the past. You've made some unwise decisions in the past. So if you go out of here and you could instantly snap your fingers and practice these teachings perfectly, which you can't do, by the way, but if you could, you're still going to experience unwholesome results coming back to you because you've made unwise decisions in the past, and you've got to extinguish that. And you do that through practicing the Eightfold Path. By practicing the Eightfold Path, you'll gradually transform your mind in this way, and more, you'll see nothing but wholesome results coming back to you in your life over and over and over and over and over again. This is what you would like to do, is gradually eliminate the unwholesome roots and increase the wholesome roots. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to help you to do that. So any questions on this? You guys are a little bit quiet this afternoon. Okay. All right. So I just went through this, just in a really short way because you guys were exposed to some of this morning with the Four Noble Truths. But this kind of lays down a foundation for you, because each one of these courses that I teach, I never know who's going to be in the course. And sometimes there's people that have already learned these things with me in the course. Sometimes there's brand new people. Like some of you guys have never really learned with me before. So you needed to learn this as a foundation. But now what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the course, for Tuesday through Friday, is I'm going to be teaching you how to take these foundational teachings and now implementing them into your life in order to create harmony in your relationships. So tomorrow, the first thing I'm going to teach you is how to do loving kindness meditation, because you'll never create harmony in your relationships if you have anger and bitterness and hostility in your mind. You're going to need to learn how to transform that and get that out of there, so you're no longer bitter and harsh and hostile with people. And then every morning, we're going to be doing loving kindness meditation as part of our practice. Instead of doing breathing mindfulness meditation, we're going to be doing loving kindness every morning, so you can start transforming your mind a bit. Then after our loving kindness meditation, and I teach that to you, I'm going to teach you how to identify your cravings and go in and almost surgically remove them from the mind. Because as long as you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, you expect other people to be a certain way. You're not going to be able to create harmony in your relationships. This is why you dislike certain people, because you have certain expectations in your mind of the way you want them to be. And if they're that way, you like them. And if they're not that way, you dislike them. But that's coming from your own mind. And you can get rid of that. you can get rid of that, understanding that everything is impermanent around you and not everybody's going to function in the same way. Some people are going to function the way you function, but other people are going to function other ways. And it doesn't mean they're bad or that you have to hate them. It just means they're different. It just means that they're choosing to do things in a different way. It's just impermanence. It's not right or wrong necessarily. It's just impermanence. So as long as your mind is craving for other people to be a certain way, when they're not that way, you will dislike them. And now you have a difficult time having harmony in your relationships. So I'm going to teach you how to individually eliminate each one of your cravings, desires, attachments. Then after our lunch break, I'm going to teach you the Brahma Viharas, or cultivating healthy mental states, loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity, because this is going to transform your mind to be able to relate to other people in more harmonious ways. Of course, we're going to do breathing mindfulness meditation in the afternoon, because we're going to do 2 meditations each day. But then in the afternoon, I'm going to do this talk tomorrow so that you can transform your mind, cultivating these healthy mental states. So I'm going to explain to you the symptoms that you're going to be seeing when your mind doesn't have these fully cultivated, so that then when you see those symptoms, you can bring in these wholesome qualities of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And that'll be our day for tomorrow. Okay? So thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your interest in learning these teachings. Thank you for your questions. If there's anything that you guys would ever like to talk to me about, you're welcome to come and talk with me. Let me know. So perhaps I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap. Yes, ma'am. Let me just turn this off. Okay.